Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, on a wrongful conviction, we will be discussing the story of Darryl Hunt, a wrongly convicted African American who was faced an all-white jury in the 1990s. Hunt was accused of the rape and murder of Deborah Sykes. Let's discover what could have led to his false conviction. Analyzing forensic evidence can be an extremely difficult task. Sometimes the evidence is misleading, sometimes it is falsified, and sometimes there is no evidence to go on at all. In Hunt's case, all the evidence was circumstantial. His conviction was based on two testimonies that he was cited with Sykes. If not for these testimonies, forensic scientists would have used other techniques with their knowledge of DNA sequences. One is RFLP, or restriction fragment length polymorphism. This method illuminates differences in individual DNA sequences after cutting it with the endonucleus. By separating the DNA in this way, forensic scientists are better able to examine the DNA sample. However, this is not a popular method as it requires a large sample size, which may not always be available on the crime scene, and it's a faulty method. In RFLP, the scientists extract DNA from blood cells found on the crime scene, cut the sequence down with the endonucleus, then lay the sample down in Aragos gel. They turn on electronic currents in the gel in order to sort the sample of DNA into length, which is also known as the electrophorese. The sample is then put onto paper and is visible to the naked eye. A more modern and popular technique is STR, or short tandem repeats. This method is more accurate, uses a smaller, more convenient sample size. STR creates copies of identical DNA sequences and evaluates the repeated bases to help distinguish one profile from another profile. This method does not use the endonucleus at all to cut the sequence down, but instead it uses PCR to make copies of small samples into bigger samples to be better used in analysis by the FBI. Finally, fingerprints found on the crime scene will go into the CODIS. The CODIS is a computer DNA database which includes all the sequences of previously convicted criminals in the past. Fingerprints are then compared on the CODIS to link crimes to previously convicted people. This exonerates a lot of falsely accused prisoners and gives them their life back. However, there are concerns about the use of the CODIS database. It reveals personal information that should remain private. It could lead to discrimination due to the release of such information, and could also completely rely on the fact the sample they obtain belongs to the actual perpetrator. However, it could be easily corrupted, and it is risky to rely on the CODIS completely. Going back to the story of Deborah Sykes. As Sykes was on her way to her work at the Centennial, she was grabbed, raped, and stabbed a total of 16 times. In 1984 in Winston-Salem, 19-year-old Hunt was convicted and arrested. Testimonies were the only form of evidence when witnesses admit to seeing him with Sykes or at the crime scene with bloody tissues. Because the court found DNA on the crime scene, they insisted there was another perpetrator, and remained confident that because of the testimonies, Hunt was a part of Sykes' murder, until the sole perpetrator came and confessed to the crime. Hunt had been rotting in jail for a crime he did not commit. Hunt was finally exonerated in February 2004. Since then, Hunt has been a national symbol for the wrongly convicted African American male in the United States, and an inspiration to many. I'm Farah Ahmed, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of A Wrongful Conviction.